let's check in on the latest with the gender activists in our public schools. One of our favorite warriors up there in Rhode Island is Nicole Solas. She's also the senior fellow at Independent Women's Forum, and she's been fighting the good fight there in her local school district. That's made you public enemy #1 there, Mom, so you're doing something right. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I'm a very dangerous person. I just keep asking the government for information.
Yes, and information that you as a citizen have a right to have. You filed basically the Rhode Island version of a FOIA request, this time with regard to any references and emails from certain administration or school administrators with regard to gender. And your response back was stunning, actually. What did they give you when you asked for all that gender stuff from your local school system?
The school told me that they have 3,400 pages of emails containing the word gender from a school principal, and it would cost me $2,500 to read them. Now, one clarification, in my tweet, I said that this was a school counselor, but I want to correct it that this is actually the school principal that is writing this much about gender for kids ages 5 to 9 years old.
Okay, that doesn't make it any better. In fact, it makes it much worse that the principal has this, I think, unhealthy obsession with the idea of gender. What time span are we talking about here?
So I didn't ask for a time span because I had sent a previous request for a school counselor for emails for just pronouns. The school gave me all the emails, which actually revealed that the school was being trained to deceive parents if children expressed that they had gender dysphoria. So I thought I should just get all the emails on gender. There couldn't be that many, but clearly I was wrong. There's 3,400 pages.
Wow.
Obviously, the next step would be to narrow the scope to see if I can get some emails, because who's going to pay $2,500 to read emails about this?
By the way, why do you have to pay so much money for this FOIA request? Again, it's the right of every citizen to know what their government is doing in the spirit of transparency. You got to shell out a couple of $1,000 so you can see that?
Yeah, well, you don't actually have to pay for it. The schools can give you this information for free. They're not required to charge you money. And in fact, I have received information for free. Kind of funny how they give you information for free if it doesn't make them look bad. But here we can see they're obviously stonewalling parents like me because they don't want to give you this information and they know you can't afford it.
So what they're just saying, oh, it's so many man hours to have to search this and print it out. Is that the concern?
Sure, that's the concern. But let's remember, we now have ChatGPT-4, which can review, gather, and redact all these documents in 3 seconds? What are schools going to do when they can just have AI review and redact all of this information? They're going to have to come up with a new way to hide information from parents, aren't they?
Yeah, there's two major issues here. We're sort of touching on the second one, so let's dispense with it, which is they really don't want you to know. They don't want any of us to know. They want to be able to set up these policies and affect our children with all of this discussion about gender and sex and preference. And they don't want parents involved. They really do think that they know best.
That's right, because they have a political agenda that they're pushing. They believe that they are these religious zealots pushing gender identity on kids, when really everyone knows that no 5-year-old is thinking about some college concept of gender identity unless an adult is implanting that in their head.
Yeah, but then the other aspect, which is much more troublesome, and we're dancing around the issue, but this is a principal of an elementary school, which is K through 5, as you said. We're talking 4 or 5-year-olds up to 9 and 10-year-olds, and over 3,000 references to gender in the emails. I mean, you know what you should do is you should do another search with regard to, grammar or arithmetic, and see if they're talking about that as much as they're talking about gender.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I mean, one criticism people gave me on Twitter is, oh, well, maybe the email just has a non-discrimination disclaimer that says, we don't discriminate against race, gender, etc. But none of the emails from schools that I have gotten, and I've gotten plenty of emails from my school district, none of them have that disclaimer. This is clearly an email where they are talking about gender in the body of the email, and there's no way to get around that. But you're right. I think that if I submitted another request to show that there's nothing else that they're talking about as much in school right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, math or reading. Why are we talking about gender this much of little kids?
Yeah, this is not a one-off. I think that most parents recognize that this is being replicated all across the country. And if this is the conversation about gender at K through 5, Imagine when you get to junior high school and high school. I mean, it's got to be such a, that's why we're seeing so much of this. That's why we're seeing these results now. What is it? 25% of high school students in the US now identify as LGBTQ. Are you telling me that they were always gay, lesbian, and queer, but they just were repressing it for the last multiple centuries, and it's only until the last couple of years that suddenly they realize that they're safe to come out of the closet? Or maybe is this a social contagion? Maybe they're being encouraged at these ages that if you do this, you actually get social credit for it.
Yes, that's right. And we have lots of evidence showing that identifying with a sexual orientation or a sexual identity doesn't always match your actual sexual activity. That skyrocketing number of people identifying with the LGBTQ community is a result of all of these surveys that we're giving children in school. So we can see in real time, you give a kid a survey, they check off that there's something that they think is edgy and cool, and then they use that data to justify more and more programming of this leftist woke indoctrination.
Do you get a sense, though, Nicole, you're on the front lines, and I'm trying to keep a perspective that's a little bit more 30,000 feet, because I'm trying to see all of these discussions and fights going on here in the Washington area, but nationwide. Do you get a sense that the conversation is shifting a little bit, that these school systems and the people who are pushing this ideology in the classrooms are a little bit on their heels, that they didn't expect the pushback to be quite so universal?
Yes, because I think that once they're put under the microscope, I think they can get a little scared. A lot of these people did not sign on to be a public school principal or a public school counselor or teacher to be suddenly in the national news. And maybe they didn't think that this would be that big of a deal. I think a lot of them are just sort of naive and a little ignorant about this really means. They think that they're truly helping kids. And I hope that this public pressure makes them reflect on what's really going on. When you give kids a new pronoun, you encourage them to have a different identity than what they're showing their parents at home. That is a harmful psychological intervention. And most kids that start this social transition with their gender identity, most of them go on to medical intervention.
Yeah.
They're going to go on puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. And that is just a whole other Frankenstein nightmare that I think schools are not really aware is happening. And it's because our media doesn't want to talk about it. They're lying to you, and they're saying that kids are not being hurt, right? They're only being helped. And we know that that's not true because of other countries reporting on it.
This is a fight. I know they like to use the term culture war. If they want to use the term war, they can go ahead and do it. But it's not a war of our choosing. We conservatives, we've been dragged into this because they've just gone ahead without public discussion, without transparency. They've just instituted all of these policies without us even having a say or a vote in it. So now we have to fight back and try to rescind all of this agenda. I feel like this is crossing political boundaries. I have no idea whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. We just saw Robert F. Kennedy Jr. running for the Democrat nomination say, no, males should not be competing in women's sports. Now, Joe Biden and the Democrats, they should be compelled to respond to that, considering he's running second place right now for the nomination against an incumbent president. This narrative is shifting. We got to keep the pressure on.
Yeah, because this is something that is going to hurt kids regardless of whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent. I've heard a lot of people say to me, I'm Democrat, but I'm not like that kind of Democrat. I'm not really into the crazy stuff.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that it's Democratic policies that have led to this crazy stuff. And if you're a Democrat and you don't support this, you need to be publicly fighting it, because it's gonna be coming for your kids, and you're going to be fighting it one way or another. And we all need to work together to stop it.
Yeah, and one way to do it, I know that you're with Independent Women's Forum, and that group also has a thing called Independent Women's Network. These are satellite organizations all around the country where moms and maybe dads, if they ask nicely, can be part of these conversations, and you have the resources so that you can actually confront your school board and your school administrators with some facts and actually get something done.
Yes, the Independent Women's Network is a chapter in Rhode Island. I'm so proud to be a part of it. We actually just held an event on school choice to educate families on all the choices they have with education outside of public school. And, one thing you have to remember is that schools are hiding what they're doing with kids and gender.
Yep.
And if only families knew what they were doing, they would absolutely choose a different school that matches their values, or at least is transparent with them about their policies on gender transitions in kids.
Well, keep fighting that fight, and we're very interested to see what those emails say, if you can, raise enough money to get them. Thank you, Nicole Solis. There's more to come. It's O'Connor Tonight on Salem News Channel.